Welcome to the Hot Topics podcast. I'm your host, Psycho 4081, and we have
Lady Lamb Chop
and Felonious Feather.
Felonious Feather, Lady Lamb Chop, and Psycho 41. As you know, the Hot Topics podcast is unfiltered, uncensored, and we're going to talk about all the things that everybody else is afraid to talk about. So this is what we're here for. So tonight's topic is going to be trauma. And there's different types of trauma, but we're going to talk about the trauma, not so much that happens to your body, but the trauma that happens to your head, your emotional trauma. Mm-hmm. So, and that's a big topic because that's something that I think everybody faces at one point or another. And obviously it is a significant issue in the United States. And
I think it's a significant issue everywhere.
Everywhere.
Mm-hmm.
That's true.
All
That's
over
true.
the world.
Yep.
Yeah. And I guess we all have different types of trauma, I guess. But okay, so just to get into it, that's what we're here for, and we're gonna define what trauma is, and give you some examples. We're gonna give you some personal accounts. On time.
Every time.
Give you some personal accounts. Give you the physical symptoms, things you can do. And I think a lot of times people don't realize that they're suffering from trauma.
Right.
And I know I have, and one of the things we do is deny.
Yeah.
Right. Or
Denial.
you just think this is how it is.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
That's a form of denial. This is just how it is.
So to kick off, let's say what things cause trauma?
So you mean like physical trauma?
No, we talk emotional trauma.
Death?
Yeah, death.
Yeah, that's a big one.
Accidents, natural
Mhm.
disasters, which is a big one
War.
because war is a huge one. That's something that we've probably dealt with in the United States, probably every year of our existence.
Right.
And the natural disaster trauma, we had several of those.
Right. You mean hurricanes?
Hurricanes.
Heartbreak.
Heartbreak.
Yeah.
Yeah. We had Hurricane Katrina.
Oh,
we had Andrew. We had mudslides in California. The great
Fires.
big fires.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
The wildfires.
Fire. Yeah. Oh yeah. Speaking of which, I'm glad you mentioned world fires, but we was talking about that before, and we looked at the fires in California, Colorado, whatever. But there was a time where the whole planet, damn near, was on fire.
Wow.
They had so many fires in Africa that was, just did not get the attention, and Australia. So now one of the big things that we want to talk about trauma is because we're just to identify it and how it can affect the community, because we're all here,
Right.
and it's been my opinion that we are a community that's walking around with PTSD.
I could agree with that. I could definitely agree with that.
So here's giving you some things that causes trauma. We talked about death. We talked about heartbreak, physical, sexual abuse, violence, accidents. Let's see, what are some other ones?
Abuse generally.
Abuse.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Financial loss.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Right. But so, with those categories, I think everybody in a particular, it doesn't matter how rich you are, how poor you are, gender, whatever your demographic is, I think at least somebody has experienced any of those things. So,
or a multitude of those.
multitude.
Things.
Yes. Okay. So when we talk about how does it apply to the community, because that's what we're here for. And according to the Substance Abuse and Mental Health Services Administration,
Good old SAMHSA.
SAMHSA.
We deal with that on a regular.
Oh, do you really? I had never heard of it until, okay. They say 70% of adults in the U.S. have experienced at least one traumatic event in their lives, with 25% of these individuals developing post-traumatic stress disorder at some point.
Or PTSD.
PTSD. So they said 70%.
I
right?
think it's higher than that.
I say it was high because I think especially in certain communities we have a tendency not to report things,
right.
or
and
not
just
ask
deal
for help.
with it and not ask for help, right?
Mhm.
So they can't be in the statistic if you don't go and get help.
Yeah. Oh, so yeah, that's under. So what would you say? What would you give it? It says 70%. I'm gonna say 95.
I was gonna say 85.
85. What would you say?
I don't know.
You feel no. All right, so talk about putting a personal spin on this. What kind of traumatic experiences have you had?
Well. For me, the major one was the death of my mom. That was like
Okay.
a really traumatizing time
Yeah.
for me. Like, it changed my whole perspective on life. Like, I was like destroyed for like a couple of years, and then after a few years, I started to get myself together.
Right.
First, I thought, oh my God, my world was like everything was over because it was a bad time because I just had my son.
Oh, how old were you?
How old was I?
Mhm.
20,
Oh, that's
20,
young. That's,
25 or 26.
Yeah, that's
26
That's young to use
something.
Your mom.
Yeah, 26, I think.
Yeah.
And then she had just died just after, like a week after I had my son.
Oh,
And we Africans, we do something called a naming ceremony, like a christening
Right.
for the baby. So she died the next day after. So we had people all over to the house, come eat and drink and feast. And then waking up the next day, I tried to reach her, and then they were giving me stories that, oh, she's sleeping, she's this. I'm like, she's sleeping, she's
not right.
and then I couldn't take it. And I called someone, and then my brother told me, hey, you know what? Mom died. And I'm like, and
Oh,
then,
wow.
yeah,
Wow.
he couldn't,
Wow.
because I was like, if you don't tell me, she's my mother. If you don't tell me, I'm not going to forgive you forever.
Right.
And then he'd be
right.
like, you know what? I'm going to call you back. And I'm like, I was suspecting.
So wait a minute, so how long before he told you that she had passed away? Yeah.
Did I know?
Yeah.
Because usually we talk every morning. So I try to reach her in the morning
Right.
to say, hey, give me the number for your sisters that came for the naming for the party so I can say thank you.
Okay.
And then someone answered the call, and then I'm like, they said she's sleeping. I'm like, okay, I'll give you another couple of hours. And I called again, and then they said she's sleeping. I'm like, she's sleeping. Then I tried to call somebody else, my brother, and underneath where he was, it was like he was going to the place, because I was hearing buses going to the place where she was at.
Oh, okay.
So I'm like, where you going? Is that not where mommy is? And then it's like,
Right.
no, they said I should come. I just want to go see her. I'm like, I called somebody else to sister, and I'm like, oh, hi, I want to say thank you for coming yesterday. And then I'm like, you're also going to the same place. What's going on? Like, and then she's like, no, I just want to go say hi to your mom after. Everybody was just saying hi to her all of a sudden on the same day.
And you didn't know.
And I
any
didn't
of
know,
that?
but I was already crying because I was already feeling
Like
some type
something's
of
not
way.
right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then eventually he told me, and because I'm the only girl, so I was close to my mom. And then it was coupled with the fact that I just had my baby. It was just like
Yeah.
traumatic for me. It was really life changing and everything.
So during that time, did you have what were you feeling physically? What were you feeling?
First, it was the worst time, I would say, again, because I could not sleep. I wake up in the night. I just wake up randomly, and then I just go, I'm scared. I just wake up and sit down, and then I sleep off. And everybody's looking at me like, what's going on? Are you okay? Are you okay? And I'm like, yeah, I'm okay. And I'll sleep again, and then I wake up scared. And it went on for like months. I could barely sleep. I couldn't sleep deep. Now these days I just started, because I started working with Harrison. So because his noises make me calm, so I'm able to sleep, that I don't expect anything unexpected.
Right.
But then I couldn't sleep. Like, you can't walk past me, you can't do
Just
nothing.
waiting
I'll
for
just wake
something
up.
to happen.
Yeah, it was really, really traumatizing.
So would
for me.
you say that you were depressed?
Well, yeah, I could
sound
say
like
depressed,
depression.
because I didn't want to go to church anymore. I couldn't go because I'm like,
so
she
now you're
believed.
questioning God.
Well, cause yeah, she believed in God so much, and I'm
Right.
like, if somebody that I know, cause everything that happens, I'm like, mommy, pray for me. You know what I'm saying? Like, I know God will answer you. You know, that kind of thing.
Right.
And then this same person died,
Yeah.
and then I'm like, okay, so if I have to do all this, and this person that is doing all this still dies, then how
While
about me?
you doing all of
Then
it.
exactly.
Yeah.
So it was
Yeah.
really, really, really trying time for me. But then, well, I'll say so far I've moved past it. It's
Yeah.
been my son is gonna be 10, so it's been 10 years. It's gonna be 10 years this year.
So how long do you think it took you to get, like you said,
I'm not past it, but I'm better at it.
Okay.
Yes, I'm better.
So during that time, did you seek any counseling?
Well, I was going to, but like as Africans, you don't. Well, these days, things have changed. I was going to, but then I'm like, I don't know if anybody really understand my story or what I'm going through, like to really understand how some people can be like, oh, you're exaggerating, or it's too much. You know what I'm saying? Like some people that they're not even walking in your shoes. They don't really get what you're going through or what this person means. That was like my first major death.
Right.
My father is going to be 75 this year. So she died at 53.
Oh, wow.
So it was like really
young.
It was surprising for me. Was like, so she had this clean sheet of health, like clean bill. She never fell sick for a day.
Right.
So, and then my dad is someone that is always here. We're already used to his trend of, oh, today he's sick and tomorrow, you know what I'm saying? But then we never ever expected anything like that from her. And then it just happened, and well, it's okay. It's all that. It is what it is. So
it's hard to lose your mom no matter what age you are.
Yeah.
So one of the things, and I'm listening to your story, did you have a support system around you, like family, friends that might have said or encouraged you to say, hey, maybe you should go get some counseling or some help, or did they offer it themselves?
And it was worse. Let me tell you why it was worse. It was worse because when you have your child in Nigeria, a woman is expected to stay home for 40 days without going anywhere.
Okay.
So I couldn't go out.
Right.
So I was by myself. So it made me really, really depressed.
You were really
okay, so
isolated.
they added on to it.
Yes, it did
Okay.
add to it. So my younger brother came over, but we were mourning together. So it was not comforting. But then it was for 40 days. I was like so depressed. I cried. And they'll be like, oh, you can't cry because, so it was more like they had to, you can't cry because if you cry on your breast and you're breastfeeding, your baby's not going to suck anymore,
or your children will be sad. They tell you
it was all that. And then they'll be like, oh, don't you can't question God, trying to play the God card too. You can't question God. You can't do this. And then made me really, really angry. You know what I'm saying? Like, let me express myself. Let me feel however I want to feel. I'm going to get over it. You can't try to tell me what to do or how to feel.
Right.
So it was everybody trying to be like, oh, well, what has happened has happened. Oh, let's be grateful. Oh, she was a good mother. At least she didn't die on the day you had your son. At least she didn't die on the day, you know?
That makes it any better.
So she never got to see your son?
No, I only sent pictures.
Oh, okay.
But she never physically got to see him. So it was like everybody trying to console you in their own way, but making it kind of worse. Because like, oh, at least she was a good mom. She didn't die. She waited till the next day after the naming before she passed. Or she...
none of that makes it better.
So many. And during any of that time, did you have this feeling of loneliness? And I know you mentioned that, you had that feeling that nobody understood you, right? So did it give you a feeling of loneliness, like you was isolated from everybody outside of the physical isolation?
Right. Yes, it was like there was nobody that could. I didn't think there was anybody that could understand what I was going through, and then it went on for a while until I met Hannah. Her. Then she was somebody that experienced the same thing I did,
and I was
so we could relate.
Okay.
So it was relatable. So she could get what I was going through, and then she supported me, and we supported each other because her mom too passed. She's also the only girl, and then we had like the same kind of story.
Okay,
and
so y'all had a lot of similarities.
So
that definitely helps.
Yeah,
that absolutely helps.
So before Hannah, like even that time when it happened, did you know anybody who experienced that?
No.
Okay.
No, nobody. It was just a first for me and my brothers.
So it's not like you could even call someone and be like, "Listen, I know this happened. How did you manage it? Or how did you handle it?"
Some people did not even understand. I remember on that day, a friend to tell you how somebody was so insensitive. On that day, somebody sent me a picture and said, "Hey, can you edit this picture for me?"
On what day? The day
my mom passed. Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
Like, can you edit this picture for me? And I'm like, are you kidding me right now?
Right.
Are you serious right now? And I held that grudge for so long. It was like everything that happened, anybody that messed with me around that period was my enemy. Anybody that had anything to do with, that just did anything close to her death or didn't console me or was just my enemy. It was just, I just took everything so personally. Like, it was like, no, you cannot say this. You cannot do this. You cannot. So it was different for me. That was like my first, every time I hear So now these days, how it affected me too is like when somebody's mom or anybody passes, I'm like, oh, well, shit happens. It's one of those things, you know, like I cannot. I try to understand, especially, but it's this day, like, well, I'll say I've moved past it again to be like, okay, well, I can really feel, especially when I know the person, I can really feel and understand that, oh my God, why did this person have to die again? Yeah. You know, but for the first couple of years, it was like, well, especially when your mom is old and you tell me, I'm crying, my mom is 75, oh, my mom is 90. And I'm like, are you kidding me right now? Your mom is 90 and you're crying. Right. So it was tough, but.
Yeah, it is tough. Yeah. It is tough to lose your parent. Mm-hmm. Absolutely. It is. Especially if you're very close to them.
Yeah.
So the only thing about how you were saying that you were holding on to the anger, and that can affect you. Yes. Also. Mm-hmm. So how do you feel like holding on to the anger affected you?
Well, I was mad for so many reasons. I was mad at her for dying. I was mad at her for a long time. Like, are you serious right now? Because I kept telling them, like, hey, and she kept telling me, you're the mother to your brothers. Oh. And I'm like, you cannot tell me I'm the mother to my brothers. You are their mother. Right. So you have to take care of your kids, not me. Right. And I have an older brother and a younger brother. Okay. So it's like, you cannot put me in that position and be like, because I'm a very caring person, so I've always cared for them right from when we're young and all that. So she's like, oh, God already gave you to them, so you're their mom and this. So I was so mad at her for dying. So it affected me. I tried not to take it out on my kids. Like my son now, every time his birthday comes up, I remember my mother because it's like, it's like days after. So it's like, every time I know it's going to be 10, I'm like, oh, okay, it's going to be 10 years. Yes. I'm like, so you just had to do something to make me remember you forever. Like, this is so bad. Right. But
well, not remember her, remember the death forever.
Yeah. Like, every time. But it gets better, I guess. It does get better.
It does get better. Slowly.
So a mom's death, sorry to say, but a mom's death is really, 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 really difficult, I guess, compared to but not compared to nothing, but
right. But mom's you really can't compare that to anything.
Yes, because your mom,
and I guess it really depends on how close you were. It could be even an uncle.
Yes, right. Yes, true. But when your mom is someone that does everything for you,
right? You get what I'm saying? You talk to her every day.
Yes. So it was like she does everything, like everything. We grew up with her. My dad was a bird. So it was my mom. He was a bird, like he was in London.
Oh, abroad. He was abroad.
Not a bird.
All right, ladies and gentlemen.
I'm African, sorry.
Her dad was not a bird.
I thought that meant like he was here and there and not.
Well, and there, because he didn't live with us anyway. Okay. So it was like, it was her.
It was just your mom.
She was the one that was like everything. She didn't have to wait for anybody to do this. Like she used to say, "Oh, I sacrificed so much for you guys to have a better life." Right. And I'm like, it's time for you to now reap what you've sacrificed, and then you're nowhere to be. One time she had this fight with me, and she said, "Oh, you know what? If she's Scorpio." Let me put it out there. She's all these Scorpio people. This is how they are, Scorpio.
Scorpio. Okay, gotcha.
Scorpio, it's not Scorpio.
Scorpio, gotcha. For those who are listening, Scorpio.
Whatever. So anyway, so how they can be, she was like, oh, I was really young, mind you. And she said, you know what? After all this I'm doing for you, when is that time to reap the fruit of my labor? I'm going to eat and enjoy. And then when I'm like, okay, you can give your daddy some. Give your daddy some. and then I'm like, well, you both raised me. He did something. She's like, no. I don't want to hear it. I was the only one here most of the time. I was this, I was that. And then this day I look at it, I'm like, where are you today? You know what I'm saying? Like, you just had to die and give all that up. All the fighting you're fighting. When I was really young to say, hey, I have to enjoy. I have to do this. I have to do that. Then you left it all. Right. It is what it is, so.
Oh, that is hard. That is hard.
Well, lamb chop.
Well,
now I just throw this up here. I was, around for a few of those, so I saw, a lot of that.
Yes.
But what would you, if you had to pick the biggest?
The biggest is probably my mom dying.
Your mom, okay.
Yeah, the biggest, absolutely, okay. And it's been 10 years. Like she said, it's been, well, I think this October it'll be 10 years, which is crazy. because I feel like it just happened. You know, you feel like it just happened. And she was sick. She was ill, but, you know, there was no, you know, this is really...
like life-threatening?
Right. Nobody's in the hospital because she went to the hospital. And I finally made her go to the hospital because she just kept coughing and belching and coughing and belching. I'm like, this is not normal. We are going to the hospital. Like, right now, we are going to the hospital. So they kept her. They kept her for 45 days, I think.
Whoa.
Yeah. And, you know, they running tests. They can't figure out what's wrong. They thought it might be pancreatic cancer. They thought it might be stomach cancer. But mind you, she's up and talking and laughing and joking, and all the nurses love her. So it's not like anything in that rotation says she was going to pass away. Like, none of that says she was going to pass away. We thinking they're going to figure it out. They're going to send her home, some instructions. We're going to be fine. So in the process of all of this, she started having leg swelling. And one day they was like, all right, we're going to take you. We're going to get some of this fluid off of your legs because, you know, that's not healthy. It pulls on your heart. We're going to get, and she did have some medical problems prior to this. We're going to get some of this fluid off of you. Did the surgery. Doctor said she went through the surgery just fine. My sister and I were in the post-op talking to her, laughing and joking. She was like, I'm sleepy. I'm like, all right, you know, Ma, go to sleep. And she died.
Whoa.
Right there in the room while we were standing there talking to her. Right there. The nurse comes in and starts shaking her. I was like, you know, Miss Horton, wake up. We want to, you know, check on you. Wake up. And she wasn't moving. And you know how you see in the TV and in the movies where they bring the crash cart and they push the family out. It was all of that.
Wow.
Like, they was like, you guys got to stand out in the hallway. And the crash cart comes and they're calling all the doctors and everybody's running down the hall. And we're just looking at each other like, what the hell happened?
So she just said, I'm sleepy?
Yep. She was like, I'm sleepy. That was it.
Wow.
That was it. And everybody's running down the hall and people are going crazy. And they pushed us in this little room and told us to, you know, sit here and just wait. And then the guy comes down and was just like, she didn't make it. And I'm like, what? Like,
are you kidding me?
Right. Right. This cannot be real. Like, this cannot be real. We just talked to her.
She was alert and everything.
She was alert. She looked at us, you know, she was just like, oh, I'm sleepy. Which is like her normal thing, like oh, I'm sleepy. That was it.
Wow.
And that was it. And talk about like being angry because she died, and being angry because I felt like I was the only one who took care of her all of this time. Like, you have all of those emotions. And just not believing that it happened, because you just sit there and just like, this did not just happen. And I just did not watch it happen. That's the other thing. It's just like, I watched her take her last breath. Like, no. Like, yeah. It was crazy.
So, same question for you. At that time, did you feel you needed some counseling?
I did not. Mostly because I had, like, so much family around me. Like, that same day, half of my family showed up at the hospital. Like, I'm not kidding you. Like, my best friend and my cousins, like, people just showed up. And matter of fact, they put us out the hospital. It was like, y'all can't stay here. It was too many. He's like, y'all can't stay here. It's like, it's too many people. It's like, okay, you know, but yeah, people just showed up. Everybody just showed up and for me and was with me and helped me through that whole process. So at the time, I didn't think I still feel like I handled it,
right,
you know, relatively well considering. But like, you know, you're angry, you're hurt, your feelings hurt. And it's times like I had this massive blowout because I didn't have Ziploc bags. My mother was the queen of Ziploc bags. And there was always Ziploc bags in my house.
Right.
And I went to get something and I was trying to put food away. And, you know, it wasn't even maybe a month, maybe 2 months after she passed away. And I was out of Ziploc bags and, why don't we have any Ziploc bags? And I'm just looking around like, you have lost your ever-loving mind.
So that was a trigger.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And it was just like, you know, little things that she used to do around the house that were no longer getting done. It's just like, I could not handle it.
Now, that was the Ziploc was your trigger.
Right.
Did you have any others like during that 10 years?
Well, you know, I started dreaming about her a lot, and I was just like, okay, I don't want to do this. But luckily all the dreams about her were good ones. Like she was always happy, and well, my mother was like that kind of person anyway. Like it was very rare that you saw her angry or pissed off, and if you did, somebody had pushed her to her last. So she was very happy. She was always happy in my dreams. She was always having fun. So that helped me a little bit.
Okay.
You know, it helped me a little bit, but
And she got exercise.
oh my gosh, she would walk everywhere and I'd be like, Mom, while you walking, there's 2 cars in this family. You don't need to walk. But
I've been going down the street. Is that Tracy's mom?
Yes, it would be her. She would walk everywhere, but you know, part of that is because she didn't drive, so she would walk that strip and get that bus, and I would just be yelling at her like, "Stop catching a bus! It's not safe!" Like, you know, stop. But that's just
the bus didn't even kill her. So
no, the bus did not kill her. The bus didn't do it. You know, and for a long time I thought Sinai did it. You know, part of me felt like, well, what did they do to her? She was fine. I guess I shouldn't have said the hospital. Sorry, son. But you know, she was fine when she went in there,
right? And
then she comes out and she not. So you know,
now,
but
how old was she?
Oh my God, it was. She wasn't 70 yet, so in her late 60s, I want to say.
Okay.
In her late 60s, yeah, she wasn't. And you know, we had her for a long time. You said your mom was 26. That's
no, I was.
I mean, you. She was in her 50s. Yeah, so you were 26.
No, you were in your 50s.
No.
Your mom died in her.
Oh
50s.
yeah.
Yes.
Right.
But your mom, you already had all your
she
kids.
Was in, yeah.
So no, I'm not.
Yeah, I have.
This
not,
is the same
right,
thing I'm saying.
Right.
Don't be mad.
Yeah, it's hard. It is hard. And hearing my son cry when I called him and told him, and it was just like, oh, that was like a punch in the gut. Because I will always remember that sound.
That's the one she taught how to ride the bus.
Yes,
and all that.
yes. So that's the older one. So yeah, that was hard. That was really hard. So it's just, and you know, just having to call people and tell people. And then the other part of that is having to explain it to every time somebody called
over
you
and over
and over again. You know, people who hadn't heard, or why didn't you call me? Oh yeah, you were at the top of my list of people to call. Like, yeah, you know, so that
it's almost kind of like getting, I don't say victim, but traumatized over and over again. Okay.
Yes, traumatized over and over again. Or even a year later, somebody was like, "Hey, I ran into so and so, and they told me your mom died." And you was like, "Yeah."
Now I understand people, especially like, you know, you want to recognize hey, look,
yes.
you have my sympathies, whatever.
Yes.
But I guess on the other side, we don't really think. I could say I don't handle death well at all.
Really?
Like the whole idea. I don't like the not saying even if it happens to me or my circle or anybody else, it's like I don't have anything to say. I don't want to. It's just a bad feeling. But I heard you. You know, that's kind of
and like Glass, my mom died, and he was just like, "What? I was like, she died." He was just like, "Oh man." I remember you saying, "Oh man," and nothing else. Like you could not say anything else.
that's
yeah.
Like my things goes blank.
Right.
You know, don't say anything stupid. Don't say anything. You know, or what should I say? All those things go out, and then you know, out the mouth comes nothing.
Right. It's hard. It's hard. It's hard. So for me, death is trauma. My favorite aunt died, my favorite uncle died, so all of those things are just like, oh. And when my uncle died, it was just like, I cannot.
And granny.
And granny. Oh, that's right, you've been around my life for a long time. Yeah, my grandmother was just everything to me, and so when my grandmother died, that was hard too. So
I remember our conversation was about mangoes.
Yes. Oh my God, my grandmother. Oh, family. I don't know what it was about Glass, but my grandmother loved him. She just thought he was the nicest. That's the nicest young man. I'm like, no, he's not. Granny, don't be fooled.
And she says, make sure you take care of her.
That's exactly what she said.
Yeah. And I was supposed to sneak up there and sneak her some mangoes.
Yes. Because she said she never had a mango.
Yeah.
But she was in her 80s, and that woman had a life. She definitely had a life. And that's one of the top 10 women in my family that I admire. She probably is number one. She probably is number one, and my mother was number two. And people used to say that all the time. I was like, how can you say that about about your mom? I was like, my grandmother was just everything.
Because she raised you.
Yeah, we lived with her for a
okay,
long time.
okay.
Yeah, we lived with her for a long time. And she taught me a whole lot of stuff about being a woman and about being a black woman.
Right.
Because it's different, and I don't care what anybody tell you.
Right.
It's different.
Did your grandmother grow up in Baltimore?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, she grew up on Stricker Street and polished the marble steps.
What?
Yes, she did. Yes, she did. So,
Wow.
yeah.
So your family goes deep into Baltimore.
Deep into Baltimore.
Because most people you don't hear, they usually come up from the South or somewhere,
Right.
whatever. So you got
we got roots.
generations.
Yes, we have roots in Baltimore. Our family is deep in Baltimore. So yeah, so for me, death was probably the most traumatizing things. Yeah.
Ooh,
Your
Lord.
turn, Psycho. Don't think you're gonna get away without telling.
Well, mine was different. So I know both of you guys, lost your mom. My mom is still alive.
Right.
And we communicate like daily. Not always by voice, but technology. We text that we have a whole conversation. But for me, I think the trauma for me, I won't point to one person. I think it was a time period. A period where Now I don't have any favorite uncles, right? I'm gonna because I like all the uncles I had. They were great to me.
Right, right.
Looked up to them. They were funny. I had my uncle Willie. I had my Uncle George. When we all could tell stories about the ice cream truck and all this type of.
Can I say something?
Yes.
Is the uncle you're about to talk about the one that thinks you're smart? That taught you how to read? Is that the uncle?
No.
Okay.
No.
But I know
No. But so
because he was wrong.
so even with him, so I have I'm talking about my father had 4 brothers, right? And they were all around, and I went around them. We used to walk around my hometown, and I just pop in anytime.
Right.
He was like, have a seat,
I don't understand.
Oh, that's Amazon.
That Alexa. Alexa, she's trying to join the conversation. That's funny.
But yeah, so for me, like when I say I love my uncles equally, I could truly say that.
Yeah.
And because they all had things about them that I liked that were different.
Right.
But my uncle George, he died at the age of 30. So when I was a kid, he died. And then in this little time span I was talking about, I had my Uncle Willie, he passed away. Then my Uncle Henry, he passed away. Then my Uncle Pete, the one the one that taught me how to read, and then my father.
Jeez.
So it's like I have one uncle, 2 uncles left.
Okay.
I have my father's oldest brother and my mother's youngest brother.
Okay.
So to me, it was like, I think the trauma for me was it seems like your history was being destroyed.
Oh yeah.
So it's like all those people, you can bring back the things that they said,
Right,
where you
right.
were, different things, and then you're gone. They're just gone.
Right. Oh, that's a good way of looking at it.
So it was like an acceptance of, what, I'm that older person now. I'm the
Yes. Yes.
So that was the trauma for me. But and also alongside that, even with how COVID came through, I lost Carol Watkins.
Right.
I mean, he was.
Yeah.
And I'm gonna tell you about the trigger on that one. But I lost another friend, Jewel.
I think I know her.
Jewel. I always call her Jewel Cyree, but what was Jewel's last name? The one I used to say. I used to.
The teacher?
No, she was a hairstylist. What is Jewel's last name? Oh my God, I feel
That's
bad.
crazy.
But because I used to call her JT.
Okay.
'Cause I heard her sister call it. I say JT or Jules. Well, that
Yes,
she
you have nicknames for everybody.
Yeah, and, that's the bad part. You call on people names for so long, and you forget their
Actual name.
Mm-hmm.
yeah. But it was hard because the last time I talked to her, I actually said, how you doing? How you feeling?
Right.
She had an ailment or whatever, and then I was reminded, I haven't heard from her in a while. Let me text her. I'm a texter, so I text everybody.
Right.
And I don't know. I saw something on an app. The house was for sale, So I went to Carol. I said, Carol, I'm not getting anything from. He knew her too. They knew the families knew each other. Growing up, whatever.
Right.
I said, I haven't heard anything. Can you check into it? Can you talk to her sister or whatever? And he told me.
Wow.
And I was like, and she passed like right. I don't know if it was a day or two after I asked her how she was doing. She's like, I'm doing fine.
Oh my gosh.
Right. So is the triggers for me comes in where, so with Jewel, I used to always get on her about, she's never locked her doors.
To a house?
Yeah.
Did she grow up in Baltimore?
Yeah.
Oh wow.
Yeah. But she lived in a nice area, whatever. But I used to drive through there and I, pop in every once in a while. And I got in the habit of just opening her door. And I kept telling her, I said,
how you didn't get shot?
I told her I was going to scare her, right? I was going to walk in here one day and, blah, blah, blah. And she's like, oh, I'm going to do it. And she would never do it. Oh, wow. So when I drive past past her area, or I hear about that little area she lives in, Owens Mills, it kind of, like, man, I can't pop in.
Right.
Right. She was good. She's a hairstylist, and what do you call them? People that does the face stuff.
Cosmetologist.
That, like, she used to wax my ears.
Oh, thank God for her.
But she was so honest and such a beautiful person. Like, she was such a good person, very healthy.
Right.
Didn't eat meat. She's I think pescatarian, and she always ran. She did the track. And she looked
nobody you expect to pass away.
Exactly. So even for you, like I say, that's she was older,
right?
But she looked really, really young. So I had that at the time, and then of course COVID took Carol Watkins, and that trigger for me is like when I used to cook all the time, and I made big meals.
Right.
So I used to send him a text message, "Hey Carol, guess what I'm making tonight?"
Right.
Come on,
bring you some. Yeah.
Exactly. So it got to the point when I was cooking, I had the extras, and I was like, I had to catch myself. Oh, let me put this for Carol.
Right.
But
you can't. Yeah.
Exactly. So
I know
that's
that feeling.
Yeah.
That was hard. Those are my triggers now, but and that's what I realized. Like when I say my history is gone, I had two close friends. I had some childhood friends that especially when you talk about high school,
right?
People I knew from high school, or even. Younger, they're no longer here. Right. So that's hard for me.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I think I don't know how I can't explain how I feel. I think maybe I hold more things in, and I don't know. It was hard.
Did you think you should have gone to get treatment like you asked us?
No, I didn't. Because I was always of the mindset that I'm a man. I can handle anything.
Oy.
I've seen it all. I've seen people die. I've seen people tragically die. I've seen everything you possibly can. Friends shot, stabbed. So I can handle it. I'm used to handling stress, but apparently
that's how a lot of black men die early.
Exactly. Exactly.
Thinking they can handle it.
So, but fast forward to now, I realize that everybody should actually get some type of therapy because being in the military or if you're a police officer or a fireman, anything that happens is like tragic.
Yes.
They want to push you into seeing somebody, talking to somebody, or peer support, and then you realize that well, geez, if they're putting all this stuff on us, what about the people like communities that see this all the time?
Right.
So if, like, say, a police officer
not getting treatment,
exactly. Yes. So you got a police officer has PTSD, firemen, nurses, doctors, whomever, military persons, but now you have a whole community walking around with PTSD.
Yes.
So and I think not enough of emphasis or energy is put into that or reaching to certain communities, because it's we see the results.
Absolutely. Yeah. You see the results in your job. I see the results in my job. Yes.
Angry. Depression.
Yep.
What do you say? Having risky behaviors and stuff like that.
Anxiety too.
Anxiety. Yes. So
anxiety, depression, all of it. Substance use.
Yeah, that's big.
Very big.
So let me ask you: have you aside from the family part, thinking about traumatic experiences, have you ever had a close friend that got tragically murdered?
No. Well, no, that's not true because my cousin was murdered.
Okay,
and my cousin was murdered,
okay.
and that was the one I found out. He died on Facebook.
Ooh.
Yeah. I was on Facebook one day and everybody was just like, I'm sending praises and, we're praying for you and your family, my condolences. And I'm like, who is praying for what? Like, what is going on? And I happened to click on one of my cousin's pages and there it was. He was shot, and I think he was shot accidentally. I don't think he was the person that they were looking for, if I got the story right. And he was young. He was very young. So, and I was listening to you talk about how you had that time span. And the time span that my mom died, it was my mother, one of my best friends, and my brother-in-law died all in the same year. And it probably, if I was going to seek therapy, it should have been at that time. Yeah. It should have been at that time because that is a lot of loss in a short amount of time.
Right.
But yeah, he was young. And like part of me wants to say he was like 13 or 14. He may have been a little bit older than that. He may have been older than that. I'm not 100% sure. But he was murdered. Yeah.
And even then, like let me ask you, have you had any experience like that? Like close friends, family members that got tragically murdered? Now you're from a different country, but I guess it's a little bit different, but have you had that?
Tragically murdered or died?
Murdered. Or died, like accidents and, such. Any tragic deaths?
Right.
Well, it was just when I was really young. It was just a friend from church, and she died. We saw her on Sunday at church, and then we're expecting to see her the next day, only to hear that she passed, and she was my friend.
Wow.
And usually deaths don't really happen that young. When I was growing up, when I was growing up, like we don't have like gunshots or all this murders like how they have it here. So. Yeah. It was really not so much for me.
So I think you're looking at a community. If you had hey, raise your hand if somebody close to you has been tragically, murdered or died. Let's say just died because accidents, crashes,
depending
whatever.
on where you are, everybody in that block or
within
a 5-mile radius could probably raise their hand.
And then you throw in the fact that who do you know that has that happened? Because that still affects one of our, workmates had a tragic situation that happened to her, where her son was killed. Right. So, even though that's not, your family, so to speak, but
that's your work family.
Yeah,
that's still your family.
You still
that's
feel
still part of your community.
Yeah, you still feel for it. Not, especially when you go back to I remember talking to the young man, so those are the things that you start feeling. I just discovered yesterday that one of the young man that was killed by the police in a shootout up here at the gas station was one of my kids from the Pal Center.
No.
Yep. And you start remembering the last conversation I had. I was like, well, I know he was into the rap game, and I was like, hey, let me know. I'll promote you on my stuff, my page. I'll forward your stuff, whatever. And I knew his mom. I knew his uncle.
Right.
So. Add that in there. Yeah. Because all I remember, even if the person's an adult, you still remember
them as a kid.
Yeah. So I think we just go through it.
We go through it. Yeah, we absolutely go through it. And the last person in my family who passed away is my cousin, who I was very, very close to. Like I would spend summers at their house, and his sister called me, and I was like, "You do not sound right. What is going on?" They call me Sookie in my family. She's like, "Hey, Sook."
Like Stackhouse.
Yes, like Sookie Stacker. I don't think it came from that because they were calling me that prior to, and I don't even know where that came from.
Oh, I know. Like Sukiyaki.
Talking to me. But I was just like, I don't like how you sound. Like, what is happening? And she said, her brother died. And I was just like, the hell? And what's weird about some of these things is that he wasn't somebody that I had a long-term conversation with, but he would drop by the house and we would talk, and maybe a week before he passed away, we had this long phone conversation. Like we never talked on the phone that long, but we had this long phone conversation, and he was good and he was in good spirits, and we were laughing and joking, and he used to always remind me, because I was older, so I was in charge of them when the parents went out. Okay. And one night we were making dinner and I burnt the spaghetti. And every time I saw him, he's like, "You still burning spaghetti?" So he even
like,
said that on the phone.
yup.
Yeah, like occasionally. So when she said that, I was like, "What are you talking about? What are you talking about?" He went to sleep. His daughter couldn't go get a hold of him. She went by the house, and he was gone. Ooh. Had a massive heart attack in his sleep, and he was in his 50s, very early 50s. Right. And early 50s. So you just don't let stuff like that go. Right. You just don't let stuff like that go. And although, you get better and you get up every day and you move on, it's going to be with you forever. It is going to be with you forever.
Now, do you feel that it's seems like it's every week there's somebody that whether it be, somebody that you see at the hair salon, somebody that, for me,
right.
And this starting, that during that time span is I'm hearing about somebody passing away. Young people.
Right.
Right. The guy that used to come up here, we used to talk about, at the barbershop and used to hang out. Passed away. Oh, you remember, Mark, we called him Mark, Mark the Hulk, whatever. Big dude, in shape, whatever. He passed away. Tavon from the barbershop, he's an ambulance driver, passed away young. He's like my age. So I think it's a culmination of all of that.
Sorry. Did you say young, your age?
Hey, look, anybody who is under the life expectancy age is young.
What's the life expectancy age?
For who? Black males? 60.
Stop it.
I don't know.
Oh,
I don't know but I wouldn't. Let's look.
I mean, luckily I haven't had that, like you said. But here's the rub to all of this: the older you get, the more of those phone calls you're going to get.
Yes.
So that's the rub to that. And, you're happy. Thank God I'm getting older. But, the longer you hear, the more. And you said something about you moving up in your family. It's just like, okay, a couple of my aunts died, a couple of my uncles died. That is pushing me, and the cousin circle a little bit further up to that line. You're just like, oh, okay.
To the great grandma line.
We getting there. And listen, I'm in great grandma striking range. I got a granddaughter that's 22.
Oh wow.
So it's a possibility,
I'm way out of that. So I started too late. But you talk about life expectancy, right? So this, according to everycrsreport.com, record high life expectancies were found for white females, 80.5. Back in the day, it used to be 74.
70, right? Or lower than that, depending on what, year you were looking.
It's now 80.5, and for black females, it's 76.1.
Damn.
Yeah. And as well, for white males, 75.3.
Oh, wow. How about black male, 20?
69.
Oh, jeez.
69. So if you look at it that way, I'm past middle age.
Oh, yeah. You're still old. You're still old.
Yeah. My granddaughter, I was watching something on TV and the lady said something about middle age. And I was like, I'm middle aged. It was a while ago. She was like,
no.
Well, Mama, that means you would have to live to 100. I had to be I think I was in my 50s. So she was like, you would have to live to 105. Because if you're to be middle aged. I'm like, really? Thank you so much.
So let's move from death to other types of trauma.
Okay, so some of the notes I picked up because this topic I actually put some time and effort into it to look at it.
Obviously,
yeah. Well, it's because, and I'm gonna tell you, I was talking to we call them people,
therapists.
Yeah, thank you. Therapist. And I still got to learn what those letters are, but
okay.
A therapist, and those are the questions they ask you about the trauma. That's the reason why I brought up the people. I was like, oh, I didn't even realize it. So when she's asking me these questions, I'm like, oh my God, maybe I do need, when's the next date? But trauma can manifest in various ways, and individuals may experience a wide range of symptoms. Here are some common symptoms of trauma. And we talked about emotional symptoms, right? You went through the shock, right? Denial,
depression, denial,
disbelief, anger, irritability, right? Mood swings, right? Guilt, shame, not so much shame. Self-blame.
Yeah, what could I have done better?
Yeah.
Or maybe I should have talked to them
Yeah,
come
more.
by,
Right.
right?
Yeah.
Right.
Yes. Me. So for me, I was going to say, oh, I wanted to see my mom immediately after I had my son.
Right.
So, but then they kept saying, hey, you can see your mom after 40 days. You can see. I'm like, but I wanted to go see her. My mind wanted to go see her. I said, let me
Right
take my
away.
son to
Right.
her. But then they kept saying, hey, hold on. You after 40 days, you'll be all right. You'll be cool, and then you can
Yep.
go.
Yeah.
But I never made it to. She never made it to 40 days,
Yeah.
and so that.
Did you blame yourself for that? Or did you blame
Yeah.
others?
I blame myself that I should have never listened
Listen
to
to
them.
them.
You know, I should have just stood my ground. I'm like, I want to go and let me go, and then
Right.
whatever
Right.
it is, let me just go see her. You know,
It's hard to fight those traditions though. It's really hard, and they put a lot on us
yes,
as women, especially when it comes to certain traditions. Like if that's the tradition, you have to do it.
yeah.
And, you know, period.
Like, oh, you just because the hospital just discharged me that same day, like
Right.
2 days. It was the second day after I had my son. So
Right.
they're like, you're just still fresh. You just need to be home, rest,
Yeah.
and all that. But I'm like, but I'm okay. I just want to see my mom. My mind is going to her. I wanted to see her. So it took a lot of blaming. Like, why didn't I go? Because I never saw the funny thing. I never saw her go. Like, I never saw her. It's like I've never really literally seen a dead body before because they didn't let me see her.
Okay.
So I never touched her. I never even saw her. I never even got that closure. Like,
Right, to say goodbye.
you understand what I'm saying? They never, it was just from far. Because she had sisters too at the burial ground. They just opened her a little and everybody was
Yeah,
crying.
yeah.
So they just closed it back like, oh my God, we can't deal with this. So I didn't really see her. I didn't really say goodbye.
That's
so
hard.
it was just.
So you dealt with anxiety, fear, panic attacks, right? Which is you never know. You never know where that stuff comes from,
yeah,
right?
Yeah.
Sadness, depression, feeling numb, disconnected,
Yeah.
right? And anybody had emotional outbursts?
The Ziploc bags.
Now, here are the things that we don't expect. And you mentioned one, insomnia, right?
Yes.
Nightmares, right? Fatigue or exhaustion.
You might not
I'll
know,
take
but
that.
it might, it might come. You might not know that's the cause, but
Right.
yeah.
Racing heart, sweating, trembling, muscle tension and aches,
Wow.
right? And like you said before, that's just getting old. But changes in appetites, headaches,
Yeah.
stomach problems, weakened immune system. Start getting a little sick
wow.
and sniffles here and there, whatever. This is a big one too, which I would never think about. I knew it was related to stress, but the cognitive symptoms, right?
Like brain fog or
Brain fog,
forgetting
memory,
things?
yep.
Oh, really?
Yep.
Oh,
Oh
wow.
my God, I have that.
Yeah, but you've had that since you was in school.
Duh.
You know what?
Whatever.
You know what?
Difficulty concentrating, intrusive thoughts or flashbacks, right? Confusion or disorientation, difficulty making decisions, negative beliefs about oneself or the world.
Oh.
As I
when
said
you-
that, yeah.
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Now, when we talk about the community, though, this is how
Oh,
we said
my God.
we have a whole community.
What about distrust of others?
Yeah,
Yeah,
I would
that's
say that.
yeah.
yes, that's a part of it.
So, how it acts out.
How it
We talk about-
manifests itself.
Yes, with especially when we're talking about community. We're going to assume we have communities, whole communities out here that's full of PTSD people.
I don't think that's an assumption. I think that's
All right,
real. Yeah, I think that's real.
Some of the symptoms, these are behavioral symptoms, was avoidance of people, places, or activities that remind you of the trauma.
Yeah.
And I think that's normal,
Yeah.
right? Social withdrawal or isolation, irritability or aggression. That's how you go at it with neighbors.
Yep.
You don't want to go to the community picnic. You don't want to, risky behaviors,
Oh yeah.
right? That's where the
So all this is like you have to recognize that
yes,
you might think all these things are part of like your life, or I'm growing older,
Right,
or
right.
or recognizing the fact that this is not normal. Like this is as a result
Or
of
something,
something I
yeah.
went through. You know, some people don't relate that
At
to
all.
whatever it is they're going
Yep.
through. It's like just a sudden change for them, but then they cannot say, oh, okay, this is it, that this is the reason
This
why
is
I'm
not
having
right.
yes
Yeah.
these
Yeah.
things.
and you mentioned one earlier, substance abuse.
Oh yeah.
That's big. So you have a
Yeah.
community with the drugs and alcohol, and alcohol's. What do you say? Alcohol will be more easy to get.
Not anymore.
Not anymore. Well,
You
yeah.
know, not anymore.
Difficulties with relationships.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
You know, I think in that part, those are the things that we never recognize,
Right.
Yes.
Right.
or the least recognize.
People don't feel like they have trauma from
right.
maybe heartbreaks or a bad relationship. Some people
right.
don't feel like, but then it can shape your life into something else, you know.
Yep.
Like distrust of others, like, okay, this person broke my heart this way, I don't want to see how we're friends or see him with, like, distrusting the person,
Or the next person is going to do the same
yes,
Right,
you know what I'm
right.
saying.
Okay,
Yes.
yeah,
So
yeah, I
it's,
got you.
Or you had some other past trauma that's not allowing you to be present in your current
Right.
relationship.
and people, like,
No.
people that have gone through like sexual abuse, like rape,
Right. Right.
and all of that.
Oh,
You
yeah.
don't want men to come near you. You
Right.
don't want them around you at
Yep.
all, and all of that. So it's
Or physical abuse. You know,
Yes.
that is going to shape your current relationship. I thought it was.
The sound check.
oh my god, we have a special friend.
You know, we really, really
Pinky.
do. Yes, he is Pinky.
All right, so you know
Special.
Donnell Rollins.
It's the name sounds familiar. I don't know.
You wouldn't know. All right, so
What do you mean you wouldn't?
you would know.
Whatever.
So you watch Dave Chappelle?
No.
Hey. So
The only Rollins I know is J.K. Rollins.
J.K. Okay, no,
See, I know Rollins.
Okay,
It's
so
not the same.
so I hope I get. I know his name is Donnell, right? So he was Ashy Larry,
Oh, the
the
comedian.
comedian. Yes.
You know, I'm thinking you talking about somebody from the community.
No.
Okay, the comedian.
And
Okay.
so he had a Netflix special just a few weeks ago.
Okay.
I thought it was hilarious, right? So he was talking about relationships when it came to trauma, or whatever. But he was talking about relationships. He said, "You ever been in a relationship, a toxic relationship, and realize that you're the toxic one?" So, and that could be 'cause-
Nobody wants to say that they're the toxic one.
Yes.
Well, he recognized. So, if you guys get a chance, go check out his Netflix special. It is really funny. And I think it said
Will do.
Dave Chappelle Presents or
Okay.
something along
okay.
those lines. But it was really, really funny. But yeah, we had a few podcasts about relationships, and
Right.
that's one of the things I think when we talk about relationships that maybe we should add in there, because trauma
Yeah.
would affect that.
affects that. Yes. Yes.
Now, you haven't had that many
No.
relationships? 'Cause you've been long term.
I've been married right a long
Do you
time.
think any trauma had a part to play in any of your past relationships or current?
I'm sure it has. I mean, you can't lose people and not, my husband's lost
Right.
his mom, 2 of his brothers, his sister.
Wow.
So you can't,
So that's expected.
yeah, life is going to throw some trauma your way.
Right.
And you can't not expect it to not affect your relationship. Yeah, I'm going to say that.
Okay.
I'm going to leave that there.
Is it safe to say that everybody probably has the probability that everybody has gone through that?
Yeah. How
I have.
Yeah, I'm going to say how do you not go through that?
What about you, Felonious?
I'm lost. I'm kidding. Yes.
So here are some. Now, would you consider yourself a spiritual person?
Yes.
You?
Yeah, not religious but spiritual. I'll say
Okay.
that. Yeah.
So here are some, and I never really thought about this, spiritual symptoms. Questioning the beliefs or values, right?
Yeah.
Feeling disconnected from a higher power or source of meaning, right?
Yeah.
Loss of hope or purpose.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Right.
Yes.
Yeah.
So
It's like when you're assured that something's going to happen, and or you're hoping that it's going to happen, and then it doesn't. It's like after praying, after this, after that,
Right.
and then it still doesn't. It still goes south.
Mhm.
It's going to shake your faith, going to shake
Right. Yeah.
whatever it is. And sometimes it's about the churches, the mosques, the religious
Uh-huh.
places too,
Right.
that they traumatize you. Like
Right.
a lot.
Can we
happens.
talk about the Catholic Church and trauma?
oh Lord.
That's a
a
whole
lot.
nother
Yes,
Yeah,
show.
it's a lot. So,
Now
yeah,
y'all
so-
Catholics, don't be calling in here talking about we was talking bad about you.
That's
Well,
why I didn't. That's why I didn't mention anything.
I'm
No.
sorry.
That's why
I was
said
raised
Christians,
Catholic. I feel like I
I'm
could say
joking.
something.
Catholics, please call in because we need somebody to ring our lines.
So I don't know. I don't think that anybody can go through life and not. If you believe in God, I don't think anybody that I know who believes in God has never said, "Oh my God, why is this happening to
Yes.
me?"
Right.
You know.
Or have doubts.
Yeah,
and
yeah.
all of that.
So even with PTSD, I've come across some people that had PTSD, and I don't know if we didn't necessarily make a joke of it. I don't think we actually took it as serious as
Right.
it. And I'm gonna give you a story real quick. So back when I was a police officer,
You're still a police officer.
so I remember we had this call where it was and I don't remember what the gentleman, what we was there for, but the gentleman might have been an emergency evaluation.
Oh, okay.
Right.
Okay.
So he was giving people a problem. He was a black man, older guy, and I guess maybe back then, maybe in his 50s, whatever. He wasn't no skinny guy. He was and he was just not going. He was
Yikes.
he was ready to take on everybody, right? So I came in there, and when I walked in, I said to him, what you got in there in that kitchen cooking? He was like, yeah, I got a steak, So we had this like 10-minute conversation about steaks
Wow.
and how to cook steaks. Right?
But that de-escalated.
Yes,
him.
yes. So we had this talk about steaks, and I told him how I cook it, and and I got stuff I got from my mom, and he was like, yeah, yeah, come on in, I'm gonna show you. I said, no, we'll see. I got you. I ain't want to go in the kitchen, So, but after that, like 10 minutes, he was like, I said, hey man, do me a favor, can you come with me? And he went, no problems. So, the scary part about that is the veterans,
Yes.
right?
Yes.
These guys that came from
All
Vietnam
the
wars and
Yeah.
stuff like that,
All
and
the
have
wars.
seen unimaginable things,
Right.
and they're out there living amongst us,
Right.
When we out here at 4th of July,
Yeah.
people
Yeah.
setting off
Firecrackers.
firecrackers,
Yes. And, yep.
and,
And people don't think about that. That's trauma.
Exactly.
That could be traumatizing to
Yes.
veterans. People don't
Yes.
think about that.
Yep, I saw it was a movie. What was I watching? It was it wasn't Saving Private Ryan. It was another movie, but they were, I can't remember, but it was one of the World War II movies, and I was looking at it, and it really hit me hard, and I was thinking about, like, if that was me, man, I wouldn't want to hear these little.
None of that.
How they have the cars where it backfires
Yes.
and stuff.
Yes.
Living. We don't think about those things, but
We don't.
it could be like something like that
Yep.
that'll snap, and
Yep.
next thing you know, we got a neighborhood shooter.
Yep.
So I guess we need to put a little bit more, or be more conscious about that.
Right.
So-
And I always say, be nice to people. You don't know if today is going to be the last day that
Bingo.
that person has gotten on their last nerve, and they just
Bingo.
lose it. You don't know what people's past traumas or current traumas.
Right.
Like, you just don't know. So, just giving people a little bit of grace can go a long way.
Well, it's amazing the problems we could avoid and even solve if we just had a little mutual respect and just be polite with people.
Right. Right.
I think I try to do that pretty much 95% of my time.
You just like talking to people.
I do. But I genuinely I like to see people what's on people's minds, and I like to
Right.
but I think that 5% is when I'm driving.
Yeah.
When I'm driving, I'm Mr. Hyde.
My kids was just like, mommy used to never cuss, and then she learned how to drive, and she say all the cuss words now. It's just like, oh yeah, that's probably true.
Yeah. But that's a trigger. I don't know why, but maybe I don't know because of my patience. But speaking on PTSD, for those who don't know, we're going to give you, this is the research portion, and we'll move on to what we have coming up later on down the line. But PTSD, as we was talking, can significantly impact a person's daily life, relationships, and overall well-being, as we mentioned. Mm-hmm. So, and that involves the treatment, psychotherapy, medication, or a combination of both. Now, I don't know what psychotherapy is generally. I can only go by the word, so psychological therapy, maybe they're going over things in your mind.
Well, it's so many different types of therapy.
Okay.
So that's probably just a general term for therapy.
And what was it? Some others. It's essential for individuals experience symptoms of PTSD to seek help from a mental health professional or get a proper diagnosis and treatment.
You know, I'm gonna piggyback on that. I think that's absolutely 100% true. But some of the problem is culturally, people don't feel like they need to have treatment or have been, you know, told to don't be going out there telling all those people your business.
And what community is that?
So I'm just gonna say I've heard that a couple of times in my family.
Right.
Don't be going out there telling all those people your business. And secondly, it has to be available.
Yes.
It has to be affordable and available.
Right.
And a lot of times it's just not. It's just not.
So, you know what? That's going to be a question of the day. We're going to put the
Okay.
question of the day. Is it taboo in the Black community to seek help,
Yes.
professional help?
Right.
Right. So we'll ask that question of the day, you know, get feedbacks, and we'll kind of
Tie
use that
it into
for
part two.
Part two. So speaking of part two, we have part two is going to come up, and we're going to have a health, what do we call it? A health, what is it called?
Healthcare professional?
Healthcare
Is she
professional?
a mental health professional?
Mental health. Thank you. Mental health. I knew you would know the mental part.
Sigh.
So we're
Coming from psycho.
Right, right.
So we're going to have a mental health professional come in and talk to us about, you know, what you can do, how therapy goes, and some of the things that we just don't know.
Right.
Because, you know, some people out there who have never had therapy probably would want to have therapy, but just, you know,
Let's
the
hope don't know
stigma
how
that
to
comes
get
with
there.
it.
Yeah.
You know, well,
There's no stigma because America these days everything is like coded. I mean, nobody knows anybody.
There's a lot of stigma out there. It's like,
Oh,
even,
yeah.
I'm gonna give you a perfect example. Like I remember some years ago. This is years ago. Somebody had mentioned to me that, hey, you know, try therapy is really good for, you know, blah blah blah. And I was like, nah, you know, I don't want to do that. Why? Some people, so you know, I can get labeled as crazy, you know, or
You are
You are
labeled as
crazy.
crazy.
You're really crazy.
But then
that
you-
is how people think.
yeah.
though.
So then you think about, well, you know, what if I try to get a job with this and that? You know, they start looking through your files, and
right.
so it's a
But
lot
people
of
don't know how that works either.
Yeah.
Like you it's a wonderful thing called HIPAA, and
Right.
they can't have access to your information. So a lot of times people just don't know how it works.
Well, what if you go to a job interview and they say, hey, have you ever been treated for a mental illness?
I don't think they can
That's
ask
not,
you
but
that.
that's not even a mental, you know,
Right.
illness. Though.
I
That's
don't
not a
think they
mental
can ask you
illness.
that, and I probably
Therapy
would
is
say
not-
you can't ask me that.
Like talking
Okay.
to somebody is not mental illness.
I don't. Well,
It's different. Like
So
your insurance company would categorize
No,
it that
yeah, yeah.
way.
So like for what do they call when you know your mental illness? What did you?
what? You,
What do they call it?
huh?
What do they call it?
You're my doctor. You should know. You should know. You should know what it's called.
Listen, guys, I want everybody to know that we are not laughing at people with mental illness. We are not making fun of people with mental with you know who need some help.
Yeah,
Yes.
we all
We're
need
not
help,
making-
anyways.
and we are-
mostly,
yes,
mostly
absolutely.
Psycho 4081.
Yeah,
Yes.
absolutely. We
So,
all could use help.
As a closing, we do want you guys to know that there is help available. Just ask.
Mental health is real.
It is real.
and
It is
everybody
real.
deals with it. And until you deal with it personally, you can never understand how a person feels when they have to deal with it.
Right.
You know, and then like I said, I don't know anybody that has not had a uncle, cousin, brother, best friend,
Somebody.
that you know that has been going through that, and we all go through it, you know, with them.
Right.
You know?
Right.
So if you guys have you know, any questions about that, we're going to do part 2, and
Feedback.
we'll have some,
And all
Yes.
of
Yes.
that. We'd love to have your feedback
Mm-hmm.
and all of that.
and we'll
What's
give you
your-
some resources
Yes.
in part 2, and just feel free to ask questions, even if it's, you know, after part 2, we can get you some information. But it is very important that you do address these issues, and there's nothing wrong with asking for help.
At all. At all.
So you guys, you can check this podcast out at www.hottopics with an X, HOT.
TOPIX. HOTTOPIX
Thank
dot
you.
com.
podcast.com. See, that's what you get.
Yes, you infecting me.
Hot Topics with an X, podcast.com. You can catch us on Facebook, Instagram, Tumblr, Threads,
iHeartRadio
and
all the podcasts.
the social
And all the
media.
right.
And most, if you go to the website, you'll see all the podcast platforms. You can catch us on some of our favorite Spreaker, iHeartRadio, Spotify, which is a big one.
Yeah,
People love
Amazon.
Spotify,
Yeah.
Amazon Music, whatever. And if you want to comment, you can call us and leave a message at 443. That's 1-443-860-2716. And we're all also connected to WhatsApp. So you can send us a message through WhatsApp or voice note.
WhatsApp.
WhatsApp. This is the person whose father was
What?
a bird. She would tell me WhatsApp. Her father was a bird.
Listen, you don't take that out on her. That was me.
No, I heard bird too. Yeah, my
Daddy, you're not a bird.
That's
my
my father was a bird. And
You
so
are so terrible.
you guys have a good one and enjoy.
Thank
All right,
you. Thank you for
Fist.
listening. Ta-ta.